Hello there, duelists. Today we're digging in and setting up our defences with a heavy control deck. As you can see, it's Subterror on the playmat. Subterror debuted in the Dark Illusion along with their TCG exclusive brother archetype Spirals. And just like Spiral, it took some OCG support to really get the deck going. Subterror still stands as a very solid control option and has kind of seen play since the release of Subterror Guru. So let's journey into the depths to check out these subterranean horrors. Okay, and we encounter the monsters first in our travels through the caves. So, 3 Subterror Guru. I mean, no Subterror deck is really worth its salt if it doesn't have 3 Subterror Guru. Subterror Guru is that kind of OCG support that I mentioned that got released a little bit after the other bits of the archetype, and Subterror Guru might go down as one of the best flip monsters in the entire game, although maybe some shadow cards might argue with that. Subterror Guru's got a simple flip effect. You can add a Subterror card from your deck to your hand, so obviously this gives it consistency. It's also got a disruption effect where you can target a face-up monster on the field and change that monster and Subterror Guru face down. It's a quick effect if you've got another Subterror card face up on the field. So he can be a disruption, he's got consistency, he's just all around the heart and soul of the deck. And then we've got our kind of, I suppose, you know, right-hand man or Fiendess in this case. So we've got 3 Subterror Fiendess, and Fiendess axes are in archetype hand trap, and it can negate anything by flipping a Subterror, a face-up Subterror card face down. It's also kind of got a recovery effect, so you can change one face-up monster to face-down position and then special summon a Subterror monster from your graveyard in face-down position. So Fiendess is obviously really, really solid, and it's kind of the first card that you're searching for with Guru. From there, we've got 1 Nemesis Archer and 1 Behemoth. So we'll go with Nemesis Archer first. So I think you kind of play Nemesis Archer really because there's not enough monsters, I would say. If I could play 6 Gurus, then obviously, you know, that would be the way you'd be going. But basically it's got an immediate destruction effect if it battles a face-down monster, and then if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Subterror monster from your deck. Well, you can do it in face-up or face-down. So it's a fairly decent addition. I wouldn't say it's nearly crucial to the deck, but you know, it's not bad. And Behemoth, I think quite a few people cut it, but I quite like it for the utility club. So basically, it's another flip monster. You can target one monster your opponent controls and banish it when it's flipped face up. And then once per turn, you can flip it face down. So that's kind of rounds up our Subterror monster. So we've not got a huge engine, but you know, I think the fact that Guru recruits and you know, you've got that kind of you know, recovery and Fiendess and stuff, it's just all you need. The other Subterror cards, I would say, are not worth running. So now we've got quite a large hand trap suite. We've got 3 Ash Blossoms, 3 Effect Veilers, which you could increase the deck's budget by $40 to play Infinite Impermanence. And then we've got the 2 Ghost Ogre. I don't know, I toy with the ratios, but I find that Ghost Ogre is the one where it can hit the hardest if you hit the right target, but some decks, you know, you end up, you know, obviously taking a card away from the field, but stopping the effect I sometimes find is more crucial than, you know, hopping the card. Alright, so let's check out the spells. So we've got 3 Hidden Cities, and like Guru, you know, you're not building Subterrors without this card. And it's actually one of the more expensive, I suppose, Subterror cards, which is a little bit of a shame, but it did get a reprint in one of the side sets. I think it was the Fire Fist one. Anyway, so 3 Hidden City, when you activate it, add a Subterror monster from your deck to your hand, so that's kind of like a very standard field spell effect, I would say now, you know, kind of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And then it's got 2 other effects. It can flip a face-down monster face-up, and then also if your opponent attacks a face-down defense position monster, you can flip it up and negate that attack. So that last one is the one that everyone kind of forgets, and you know, it can come up, but really, you know, a lot of this card's potential is in the fact that you can search your Subterror Guru, set your Subterror Guru, and then immediately activate Hidden City to flip it face up, and that's the, you know, the kind of, you've immediately, you know, plus kind of like 2 cards just from the Hidden City. So it's a very solid card. From there, I'm running 2 Subterror Cave Clash, which Cave Clash, I would say you could reduce it to 1. I quite like it at 2, but again, you know, you never need more than 1 on field. So all Subterror monsters gain 500 attack and defense for each set monster on the field, which can, you know, mean that you get some quite big boys, although the trap card kind of counteracts that kind of increased attack. And then if a Subterror monster inflicts battle damage, you can get a Subterror card back from your graveyard to your hand, which means that you can kind of recur the Fiendess, which again gives you a really solid grind game. From there, we're playing 3 Pot of Extravagance, which I understand this card is quite expensive still, even with the reprints. But it's by far and away the best option. I have tried running Subterrors with Pot Desires and stuff like that. Mostly when this card, you know, a playset of this card was, you know, $120 or whatever it was. But I just, it's not the same. And I am sorry to say that, you know, that if you're building this deck and you want to win, Pot of Extravagance is the way to go. From there, I'm running 3 Pot of Dualities. So you really need to hit your Hidden City or your Guru. Duality doesn't conflict with Extravagance because it does stop the special summoning, but you're rarely special summoning anyway. It's just you need Guru or you need the Hidden City, and that's the end of it. So I'm trying to make this deck as consistent as possible to get to those resources. From there, I'm running 2 Super Polymerization. So this card had definitely flagged, in my opinion, in terms of usefulness with, you know, the Buster Lock, just because any deck that was, you know, doing a massive board could also put out, you know, Union Carrier and the Buster Lock, and then Super Polymerization was off. But with Buster Lock's, you know, demise at the hands of, you know, combo, Super Polymerization becomes a much more useful card. Again, you could choose to run it at 3, you could either cut a Cave Clash or something else. I find that 2's a reasonable ratio. From there, we just got some utility cards. I've got 1 Called by the Grave. Again, you can choose to cut it, but I think it's a really useful, both, you know, in defensive and as an offensive card. Then I've got the 1 Terraforming to search out that Hidden City, and then the 1 Upstart Goblin. And then rounding out the main deck, we've got a reasonable sized trap section for most of my deck. So we're running 3 Final Battle. Final Battle's got a billion effects. And again, I think you could choose to cut it down to 2 if you so wish, but I think having 2 Final Battles on the field is kind of really where you want to be. You want to have a Hidden City, you want to have a Guru, and you want to have 2 Final Battles, and optionally, and preferably, you want to have a Cave Clash on board as well. And if you've got that, then your opponents have a real tough time getting through that. So Final Battle's got a bunch of different effects. It can either change a Subterror face up or face down. It can increase the attack and defense of a Subterror monster to become equal to the combined attack and defense of the original attack and defense, which means that, you know, the Cave Clash boost isn't that effective, but it still makes Guru like a 3400 level 4 monster, which is obviously super solid. And then the effects of Subterror monsters cannot be negated, which I find I tend to use the least, I would say. The one that you're doing most of all is the flipping and the attack, I would say. And then when you activate it, it goes back face down, and it's also not once per turn, so having multiple just means you can mess around with your opponent and stuff like that. So it's a really, really solid card, and, you know, once you've searched for your Fiendess, this tends to be the card that I'm searching after that. From there, running a Solemn package of 2 Judgment and 2 Strike. And you could, you know, mix this up however you want. I think you need at least a couple of Judgments, in my opinion. Stop that, you know, back row, you know, disruption. Strike is obviously super solid in terms of effect, you know, monster effects are everywhere. And then finally, I'm running that 1 Metaverse on the, you know, off chance that you kind of need to search the slow way, I suppose. So it's going to be reasonably quick extra deck section. I haven't got a designated build for this. I tend to run just super polymerization targets, so, you know, Mud Dragon of the Swamp, probably a number of those, Star and Bone Fusion Dragon, a number of those as well, and then optionally World Chalice Guard Dragon, not going to pronounce that final bit. So that's 3 link monsters, which doesn't come up as often anymore, you know, just with the kind of Master Rule 4.1 or Master Rule 5, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, 3 link monsters, and obviously if you do that, then it's a complete blowout. You know, your other things are, you know, you could run a Subterror Behemoth Fiendess. I would say it's not really that relevant, so my advice would probably be 3 of each of the Super Polymerization targets, then, you know, a Nightmare, Phoenix or Unicorn sort of thing. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up the extra deck section. So in conclusion, traps are currently riding a meta wave, being more relevant than they've been in years. So Subterror have really got a solid, good time to get in with a playstyle that perfectly suits that kind of slower game pace. And they can easily set up if the opponent isn't careful, and it can be very hard to break through and unpick that disruption once that setup happens. So in terms of relevance, for me, it's a 4. For fun, I would say the majority of the kind of playing the game and enjoying that sort of, you know, play style comes from knowing your opponent's decks. And as you can see, I've kind of built mine with much more of a disruption rather than a floodgate, and that just is for personal preference. I'm not really of the opinion that you should. Floodgates just tend to be, your opponent just has to draw an out, which I don't find that fun. Obviously you can choose to put in, you know, there can be only one and stuff like that, which, you know, I think is, you know, would make the deck stronger. But again, I've chosen to go for more of a disruptive than a floodgate style. But once you've kind of, you know, once you've kind of played the line a few times, you're not going to be innovating the plays that this, or, you know, all the lines or even the tech choices that this deck plays with. It's a fairly static build, which I suppose makes it a reasonable investment. So in terms of the fun, that's the original question, it's a 2 from me. And that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy playing with the deck, but I think that it's a deck that I tend to pick up, play a few matches with, and then put back down for a bit of time before coming back to. So, Subterror cards are fairly reasonable in price. Again, besides the Hidden City, which tends to be one of the more expensive cards, especially in archetype. The downside is some of the surrounding options are quite expensive, you know, the Extravagance being, you know, one of them, and, you know, the hand traps and stuff like that can definitely add up. So I've estimated this build to be about $240, which, to be honest, is more expensive than I'd kind of assumed, but yeah, I suppose that's the state of the game. So, have I dug up a meta contender, or should Subterrors be left to their dark depths? Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content.